Hey everyone, welcome back to Rabbit and Red Reviews. I'm Eric. Today we're going to be taking a look at Hazelburn, 13-year-old Oloroso cask matured single malt Scotch from the Campbeltown region in Scotland. So a little bit of background on Hazelburn. Hazelburn is currently under the ownership of the Springbank Distillery, which is one of the three that's still remaining distilleries operating in Campbeltown. The story goes Hazelburn was actually a pretty prolific distillery back in the late 1800s up until I think around 1920 when they ended up shuttering and then reopening briefly until 1926, shuttered again, and then eventually many decades later came under the ownership of the Springbank Distillery and is now one of the three, brand names that Springbank makes. So there's Springbank itself, there's the Long Row line, which is their more peated Scotch, and then there's Hazelburn, which is their triple distilled non-peated Scotch. Taking a quick look here at the bottle. So as you can see, take a peek at the label here. It does have an age statement. This is bottled at 47.1%, 13 years old. Like all Springbank, these are always natural color, never have chill filtration, so they get good marks for that. Little bit of info on this bottle itself. So right now, Springbank makes about 80% of its work actually is done making the Springbank line. The other 10% they have for their Long Row line, and then they do about another final 10% of production for their Hazelburn line. So this is a somewhat difficult one to get a hold of. Wouldn't go so far as to say it's exclusive, but certainly not something that you can find readily in all cases. It says here, so this is the 2017 version. This was, they did about 12,000 bottles of this total. So a little bit of info. Hazelburn single malt Scotch is triple distilled, free from artificial coloring, also is not chill filtered. So they're very explicit about that. They say it right on the label. This will cause a slight natural haze to form when it is cold, but this will disappear when the temperature returns to normal. So it's pretty much standard for anything that's non-chill filtered. It's presented in a very natural expression. So we can take a quick look at the box here. So the packaging that it comes in is very typical of the newer boxes that Springbank is in. It's kind of got this picture frame opening so you can actually see the label. And they have a little bit of information here on the back, kind of just about Springbank and Long Row and Hazelburn. So let's get right into the nose, palate, and finish review. We'll chat a little bit about the value of this, and I'll share my final thoughts, including a score of 1 to 5 stars. All right. So give this a little roll in the glass. You can take a peek at the color. As I mentioned, this is all natural color, so it's pretty nice. You can tell this is definitely a sherried Scotch. It's got a little bit of that red hue, kind of orange, red, amber hue to it. It's something you really do appreciate about distilleries like Springbank. They're one of the few that still kind of do things, quote unquote, the old world way, which is they do everything on site, so they don't allocate any grain or do their distilling off site or anything. Everything is done in-house. All their barley malting is done in-house, and everything is presented in a really traditional way. And so it's one of the reasons the Springbank Distillery and their line of whiskeys is always held up in such high regard. So let's get into the nose. So immediately on the nose, the fruits off that Oloroso sherry maturation, which is exclusively Oloroso sherry maturation on this one, definitely making its presence known here. I'm picking up green apple, almost like a berry raspberry, a little bit of a tartness, some strawberry as well. So there's like a kind of a sweet strawberry, and almost like a faint but rather pleasant. I guess the only word I could describe is like a mustiness, like This is pretty standard for all Springbank scotches, and so every time you ever get a chance, you'll notice that this is kind of one of the signature things you pick up, knowing that you're drinking a Springbank product. But it's quite nice. Very deep. Also picking up kind of like an orange, almost like an orange cream, like an orange creamsicle or something like that. A little bit of light vanilla, raisin as well. In the back, a little bit of a nuttiness. It's kind of like baked almonds. This is very nice, complex. Smells awesome. Let's check out the palate. Sláinte. So first on the palate, the sweetness, kind of like berry, that apple kind of hits, and then spices really showing up as well. Getting a little hint of black pepper as it develops, slight touch of mint. Another spice, I almost want to say kind of like coriander. Bit of powdered sugar as well. Just really, really, really good. Viscosity is nice. I'd say it's about a medium viscosity, which is pretty good, you know, considering this is a 13-year-old aged Scotch. Development is drying a little bit. And then going into the finish, medium long and warming. There's a slight sourness from some grapefruit, but it's balanced really well with this creaminess. And then also getting like a little hint of smoke, almost like a charcoal smoke. Spices coming out as well. I'm thinking cinnamon, nutmeg especially. And then that apple is kind of coming back as well here on the finish. Wow, this is really, 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 really good. Really interesting. More complex, has more depth than a lot of traditional sherry, just exclusively sherry matured scotches. There's just a lot going on here. Let's put a little bit of water on it and see what happens. As I said, this is bottled at 47.1%. So we don't want to put too much water on it, but I think a little bit will bring out a little bit more here. Let's take a look. Wow. Yeah, so that powdered sugary kind of note that I noticed on the nose is coming out a little bit more here. The green apple, the raisin, just a sweetness, almost like a caramelized sugar a little bit too. Just, wow. Yeah. Wow. The water actually didn't dilute this that much at all. Everything has just kind of been kicked up a notch. Really vibrant. The mouthfeel's almost gotten more full and almost even a little bit more viscous. Yeah, flavors are about the same, but everything's kind of dialed up. Apple, berry, a little bit of that cinnamon nutmeg spice. The pepper is actually the only thing I'd say has been subdued a little bit. Still a little drying, still a little bit of the oak cask, but just working harmoniously with everything else going on in this glass. The finish has almost gotten a little bit longer. Oh, just really rewarding. This is fantastic stuff. Wow. Okay. So what can we say about this? You know, for the value at least, in the United States, like I said, this is a little bit on the exclusive side. I think you can find it. Specialty liquor stores might be able to even order it for you. They only do about 12,000 bottles a year, as it indicates, so it might not always be the easiest thing to find, but if you do, you'll find this for about $110 to $140. This is definitely worth it. I mean, that may seem a little bit high for, you know, a younger-ish aged single malt, but for the quality that you get, just like you would on any Springbank, you know, you pay a little bit more, but it's worth it every penny. So this is really kind of a funky, complex dram, just superior quality. It could really only come from the Campbeltown region and that uniqueness that you get out of the products distilled there, and especially out of Springbank. It's got some challenge to it, but nuance and just really, really rewarding. I wouldn't say this is an introductory level Scotch. I think for people just getting into sherry matured Scotch, you might want to look at something a little bit more like, I would say, Glendronach 12, Glenfarclas 12, maybe even, sorry, this is just this is just really good. Yeah, I mean, like a Glendronach 12, even like a Macallan 12, you know, something that's a little bit more simple to kind of get yourself into determining whether or not you have the palate for sherry Scotch. But sooner than later, once you determine you like that kind of expression of Scotch, something like this will definitely give you a little bit more challenge and a lot more reward. So I would recommend this definitely for seasoned Scotch drinkers for sure. I'm going to give this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. This is just a stunningly fantastic whiskey. I highly recommend buying a bottle wherever you may be able to find one. All right, so that is the lowdown on Hazelburn 13-year-old Oloroso matured. And we'll catch you next time here on Rabbit and Red Reviews. Sláinte.